Impossible is a word found in the Dictionary of Fools. That phrase doesn't just challenge the limits of human potential. It calls out the voice of doubt that lives in all of us. It stares directly at the idea that there are things you can't do, places you can't reach, lives you can't build. Napoleon Hill believed that success begins with simple but unshakable principle, definiteness of purpose. The moment you decide what you want, clearly, specifically, and with conviction, you begin to erase the word impossible from your vocabulary. You stop asking if something can be done and start asking how you're going to do it. Every extraordinary achievement in human history began with someone who believed in something others didn't. Flight, electricity, the internet. None of it was possible until someone believed it was. Hill taught that belief is the starting point of all riches. Not belief in fairy tales, but belief backed by purpose, clarity, and unwavering determination. When you believe in your vision with everything you've got, when it becomes your obsession, your mission, and your reason for rising in the morning, then your mind begins to move mountains that others can't even see. What you believe shapes what you attempt, and what you attempt shapes what you become. If you start with the belief that something is impossible, you'll never even begin. But if you believe there's a way, if you dare to imagine that success is real and possible for you, then the impossible starts to shrink, and the world, no matter how large or intimidating it may seem, begins to open its doors. Belief turns the key. Purpose walks through. The real enemy is never out there. It lives quietly inside the mind, disguising itself as reason, safety, or humility. Napoleon Hill taught that fear and doubt are the twin destroyers of success. They don't scream. They whisper. They speak in moments of hesitation, in the voice that says, "What if I fail?" or "Who am I to try this?" These aren't just thoughts. They are deeply rooted beliefs, and beliefs, more than anything else, shape our reality. If you believe the world is full of opportunity, you will find it. If you believe life is stacked against you, you'll see obstacles everywhere. Hill's principle of faith wasn't about blind optimism. It was about choosing belief over fear with deliberate discipline. He warned that fear feeds on inaction, that doubt multiplies every time we shrink back instead of stepping forward. People don't lose because they aren't talented or intelligent. They lose because they convince themselves not to try. They talk themselves out of the dream before the world ever gets a chance to doubt them. Think about how often people sabotage their potential with simple phrases. "I'm not ready yet. Maybe I'm too old. What if I'm not good enough?" These thoughts don't come from facts. They come from a mental program written long ago, often by failure, criticism, or fear of judgment. And unless they are challenged, those thoughts quietly run the show. The result? Ideas never launched, businesses never started, books never written, lives never fully lived. Hill believed you could rewrite that program. You could choose to believe something new, something empowering. The moment you question your limits and start feeding your mind with purpose, clarity, and repetition of faith, everything changes. You don't need to be fearless. You just need to stop letting fear make your decisions. Most people aren't born with self-doubt. They learn it. They absorb it through the words of others, the expectations of their surroundings, and the patterns they see growing up. Society tends to reward conformity and play at safe behavior, not wild ambition or unshakable belief. Family, even with the best intentions, often teaches limitation in the name of protection. Don't aim too high. Be realistic. People like us don't do things like that. These messages become scripts, repeated until they feel like truth. And when they go unquestioned, they form chains, mental barriers that shape what we think we can or can't do. Napoleon Hill taught that one of the most powerful tools for breaking those chains is autosuggestion. The mind, he said, becomes fertile ground for whatever thoughts are repeated with emotion and belief. If you constantly feed your mind the idea that you're not good enough, not ready, not worthy, you'll eventually believe it and act accordingly. But the opposite is just as true. When you deliberately choose to flood your subconscious with positive, purpose-driven statements, you begin to reprogram your identity. This isn't just about positive thinking. It's about forming new mental habits. You begin each day speaking life into your goals. You write your definite chief aim. You repeat statement of faith and personal power. And as you do this, day after day, those new thoughts begin to take root. Over time, they crowd out the old conditioning. They shift your focus from doubt to belief, from fear to action. Hill believed that faith is not something you wait for. It's something you build. Repetition, emotion, and clarity are the bricks. The blueprint is your vision. The more you affirm that vision with conviction, the stronger your belief becomes. And once you believe, really believe, the world begins to change with you. The word impossible has been used to label nearly every breakthrough in human history, right before it was proven wrong. When Thomas Edison was experimenting with electric light, people ridiculed the idea. Thousands of attempts ended in failure, and to outsiders, it looked like madness. But Edison wasn't chasing possibility. He was chasing vision. He famously said, "I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work." Napoleon Hill often pointed to Edison as a model of persistence and belief. Edison didn't just overcome adversity. He turned it into fuel. The darkness wasn't his enemy. It was his proving ground. Henry Ford faced similar doubt. When he proposed the idea of a gasoline-powered automobile for the average person, even his own engineers told him it couldn't be done. The idea of mass production was laughed at. But Ford wasn't looking for consensus. He was working from a belief so strong that the doubt of others couldn't shake it. Hill admired Ford's definiteness of purpose, his refusal to accept limitations imposed by convention. Ford didn't wait for the world to understand his dream. He built it anyway. Then there's Helen Keller, blind and deaf before she could speak. By all societal standards of the time, her future was impossible. Yet with the help of a teacher who believed in her potential and her own unrelenting will, she became a symbol of what it means to break through every conceivable barrier. Her achievements weren't just personal. They shattered perceptions of what was humanly possible. Hill's timeless truth is that every adversity carries with it the seed of an equal or greater benefit. These stories prove that point. What once seemed like a wall became a doorway. What others mocked became milestones. What was once impossible became legacy. The pattern is always the same: a bold vision, fierce adversity, and unwavering belief. The world rarely understands impossible until it sees it. That's why visionaries must believe before there's proof. They must see the result long before it exists. And they must walk through darkness with the light of conviction, because history is not made by those who wait for permission. It's made by those who dare anyway. Napoleon Hill's story of Edwin C. Barnes is more than a tale of ambition. It's a blueprint for what happens when burning desire takes the lead. Barnes didn't have money, influence, or connections. What he did have was a desire so intense that it left no room for doubt. He made up his mind that he would go into business with Thomas Edison. Not work for him, work with him. To most, that would have sounded delusional. But to Barnes, it was as real as gravity. He didn't know how it would happen. He just knew it would. That's the kind of desire Hill called definite. The kind that doesn't waver, doesn't ask for guarantees, and doesn't stop at closed doors. When Barnes finally got to Edison's office, he didn't get a partnership. He got a job, menial, low-paying, unnoticed by most. But he didn't flinch. In his heart, he was already Edison's partner. That mindset shaped everything he did. And eventually, that inner belief paid off. He saw an opportunity others overlooked, Edison's new dictating machine, and volunteered to sell it when no one else believed in it. Barnes sold it like his life depended on it, and in return he earned the business partnership he had visualized years before. Not by force, not by luck, but by desire so persistent it turned fiction into fact. Desire has the power to burn through every form of resistance. It creates stamina when energy fades. It quiets the voice of doubt. It turns impossible into inevitable. That's because true desire doesn't entertain alternatives. It doesn't rely on conditions. It's not a hope or a wish. It's a decision. When you want something badly enough, you begin to think in terms of outcomes, not obstacles. You endure rejection, failure, exhaustion, because the goal has become part of who you are. Hill taught that desire backed by faith is the starting point of all achievement. Without it, people get distracted. With it, they get obsessed in the best way. They become unstoppable not because they're lucky or gifted, but because they've decided that quitting is not an option. When desire takes hold, the limits begin to fall. Vision without action is a dream that never leaves the mind. Napoleon Hill made it clear. Thinking is only the first step. You must act decisively, persistently, and consistently. No matter how powerful your belief or how vivid your imagination, nothing changes until movement begins. The people who change their lives are the ones who take the first step without waiting for perfect conditions. They act in faith, not certainty. They move forward when others are still stuck planning, hesitating, or overanalyzing. That is a true test of belief. Acting when there's no proof yet, only inner fire. Hill called this the bridge between the invisible and the visible. Every great achievement began with an idea, but that idea had to be expressed through effort, and not just one-time effort, but day-after-day application. This is where most people fall short. They start strong, but fade when results don't come fast enough. They mistake delay for failure. But in truth, all success is built to the compound effect of consistent effort. Small steps done with discipline, even when they feel insignificant. When you commit to taking action, even when motivation is low or progress is invisible, you begin building something permanent. Momentum. Momentum feeds belief. Action becomes the soil in which your faith takes root. And even if you don't see results right away, you're reshaping your reality from the inside out. Think about any major achievement in history. Behind it, you'll find not just a moment of brilliance, but a series of actions that others didn't see. Nights of quiet work, days of rejection, weeks of progress so subtle, only the committed noticed. But eventually, those actions compound and the breakthrough comes. That's what Hill demands, not passive hope, but active pursuit. Not just a vision, but the courage to walk toward it long before the road is clear. Success favors those who do, not just those who dream. No one rises alone. Even the strongest minds need reinforcement, especially when pushing towards something the world calls impossible. Napoleon Hill understood this deeply, which is why he dedicated an entire principle in Think and Grow Rich to the concept of the mastermind. A mastermind is more than a group of people. It's a union of energy, purpose, and belief. When two or more minds come together in harmony, they create a third, invisible force greater than the sum of their parts. That force is power. It brings strategy, accountability, encouragement, and most of all, faith. When you're chasing a dream others don't understand, your environment becomes critical. You must surround yourself with people who see past limitations, who talk in solutions, not excuses. These allies don't just cheer for you. They challenge you, refine your ideas, and help you stay on path when doubt tries to pull you off it. In a world where most settle for average, your inner circle should be filled with people who speak in possibility and act in purpose. Hill himself credited much of his transformation to the influence of mentors and like-minded thinkers who believed in his vision even before results appeared. That belief, shared and echoed by others, strengthened his own. If you want to do the impossible, don't just build a plan, build a team. Find those who won't flinch at your ambition, who won't settle for less, and together you'll multiply the power of your vision. Erase the word impossible from your vocabulary, from your thoughts, from your life. It does nothing but limit what you dare to attempt. Napoleon Hill reminded us, whatever the mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve. That's not wishful thinking. It's a call to rise. You write your future not with your circumstances, but with your belief in what's possible. Speak faith, act boldly, and never let the world define your limits. The only barriers that exist are the ones you accept. Refuse to accept them. Believe bigger, move forward, and prove impossible was just a lie waiting to be exposed. If you found value in these insights inspired by Napoleon Hill, make sure to subscribe for more powerful lessons on mindset, wealth, and personal growth. We share timeless wisdom, practical strategies, and motivational content to help you unlock your full potential. Stay inspired, stay focused, master your mind,